Welcome back. Now, the largest agricultural exhibition in the Southern Hemisphere, Nampo Harvest Day, wraps up today. The Land Bank has, in the meantime, distributed almost 1 billion rand in grants and loans to farmers to aid their operations. This amid biosecurity lapses and climate challenges, which has led to revenue losses for producers, along with interrupting exports. It is against this backdrop that Dewald, Olivier, CEO of the Red Meat Industry Services, with his outlook on the red meat industry. Thank you so much for your time, Dewald. So, of course, the annual Nampo event in the Free State is wrapping up today. You are there. What are some of the key conversations that the red meat industry has been unpacking this week?
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me. I think one of the biggest things we've been talking to or about is specifically biosecurity, and I think from a South African perspective, but also in an international perspective, because sometimes we feel like we're on an island and we're the only country in the world that's got biosecurity problems with regards to livestock. But if we look what's happening all over the world, mentioning avian influenza, foot-and-mouth disease, African swine fever, it's everywhere. Yeah. So a lot of the discussions went on surrounding with regards to biosecurity specifically. But the main focus, and I think the good takeaway that we had this week, was about the resilience of the South African agricultural industry. And the farmers who came through here, we call them either commercial or new era farmers. I think the discussions have been wonderful. I mean, these guys are so passionate, and they just want to farm.
Mm-hmm. I also want to speak about where climate change and sustainable production, fares on the list of priorities and in the subjects that were discovered over the conference.
Yes. Okay. So I think sustainability is one of our pillars. Sustainability and competitiveness is one of the pillars that we have in our strategy document. What we've seen also, obviously, speaking to these farmers, there is a renewed sense with regards to how do we farm sustainable? How do we do things different? We understand that obviously there's a massive obligation on farmers to farm sustainable, but also balancing that with food security. And there's a lot of things. If we look at climate smart agriculture, also a huge topic of discussion here. And how do we include, or how do we utilize systems and technology to assist us with climate smart agriculture? The focus that we had, and what we said to each other, actually, the conclusion to us was, we already as South African farmers are doing the right things. We just need to document it to show the world that we are sustainable.
Well, talking about the world and showing the world, let's talk about your export market. Of course, a lot of these things, biosecurity, climate change, also providing, some hindrances maybe to production and exports and the like. What is that export market looking like? How significant is it? And are there opportunities that you are exploring?
Yeah, so export obviously is very important to us. Our strategy, our 2030 Red Meat strategy, focuses on export, and we've got a very ambitious target to increase our export from 4% to 20%, which could, with cattle and sheep, add 12 billion to our bottom line GDP. So we're currently exporting and open up new markets like Saudi Arabia, which has a massive impact on the farming community, and especially the small-scale farmers. I think one of the biggest things is we understand it's a touchy subject and a bit emotional, but the export of live animals, for example, there is some significant discussions surrounding that. And yes, the first prize would always be to export product, but there are certain countries that would like to import our live animals. And so from our perspective, what we see is that these markets help the smaller farmers a lot. The fact that they've got markets. We opened up Oman, we opened up Iran, we're looking currently hard at work at Singapore and Malaysia, and these markets will actually benefit our industry massively. Not only commercial farmers, like I said, from the smallest one to the biggest. And our core focus is how do we integrate each and every role player, each and every farmer, from the ones with 2 cattle or 2 sheep to the bigger guys, to the commercial farmers in South Africa, and then obviously ensuring that we are, like I said earlier, sustainable.
I was also going to speak about, meat inflation in South Africa here. What we have seen, of course, due to the avian flu is poultry, inflation really shooting up. But meat inflation has actually remained quite steady. And let's talk about that, the cost of production for red meat in South Africa and how that is translating to how much consumers may be paying for it.
Mm. So yes, I think the cost of production is high. We've seen over the past 2 months with the drought that we had, it has a massive influence on the input cost, and it will definitely, I think, over a period of time, have an effect on the consumers and the prices that the consumers pay. But that being said, if we can, and that's the whole aim of exporting, if we can get export markets going, then we can stabilize the South African price. Then it doesn't come down to the local consumers having to pay more to keep us in business, if I can say that. And we've got the opportunity to not have shortages where there's a supply and demand situation whereby our exports can really stabilize the price for the South African consumer. What we've seen is every time a market closes or there's a problem, it's the concertina effect that then you'll see in the supermarkets, then it's cheap, then it's more expensive, then it's cheap. And we would like to stabilize that to create some sort of ability for our consumers also to be able to budget and make it more affordable to them, but charge the prices as we export to other nations.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights. Looking forward to more of the outcomes that come out of NAMPO as it wraps up today. That was Dewald Olivier, CEO of the Red Meat Industry Services.